Welcome to You Are Your Own Hero. I am Dr. Tassel Faith Shamebrook, and the warmest welcome to you, dear hero, for joining us today. And today we have a great topic: how to live happily ever after a divorce. And I'm going to give you 6 very powerful practices for you to live happily ever after. And there are practices here for you if you don't have kids together, and also if you do have kids together. And I'll just start by sharing my own story. I am divorced, and this is not what my human had envisioned for herself. My dream was originally to stay married and to be a full-time parent. And that to me was the definition of living happily ever after. But that wasn't to be. That was not my soul's plan for myself. And so I have had to really adjust how I define happily ever after. And I've really had to embrace the change and the direction that my life is taking me on. So, and this was not at all an easy process for me. It was very heartbreaking for me to get a divorce and to no longer be my children's full-time parent. And I went through a lot, and I learned how to make peace with the situation and truly to live very happily at this point in time. So I'm so passionate about this topic and in helping anyone I can navigate this type of journey, because I know it can be very painful. So let's get into these 6 practices. And if you don't have kids together, the first 3 practices will be perfect for you. And then if you do have kids together, all 6 practices will really serve you, I believe. Okay, the first practice is basically my foundational practice that I probably talk about in every single episode that I do. That is honor and feel all of your feelings, especially the really uncomfortable ones. So, in the aftermath of me separating from my former spouse, and a lot of things happened that were very difficult. I felt very, very hurt in many ways. I am sure he did as well. And on my side, I had so many feelings about him that were really uncomfortable for me. Deep, profound anger. I would say hatred. I would say revulsion, and a complete desire to avoid him in any way that I could. If we hadn't had kids together, I most likely would have just wanted to completely move away and not talk to him again. And perhaps he might have felt the same way about me as well. We both contributed to the acrimony. So for me, at least, it was very uncomfortable for me to feel these feelings. I didn't really want to be a person who held hatred towards someone else, or all of these uncomfortable emotions. So this was a journey for me to learn I needed to honor. I needed to honor whatever was arising for me. And that was the way through the feelings. That was the way to move the feelings through me and come to peace. We feel to heal. So this practice always of honoring whatever is arising in us and not judging it, just allowing it, honoring it, recognizing it, feeling it. And truly, feelings usually only take about 60 to 90 seconds to feel. So even the most uncomfortable ones, they're over pretty quickly. Okay, and what we will find when we give ourselves permission to feel everything and not judge ourselves and not label ourselves, we will find that peace and forgiveness will just happen naturally. It isn't something we will have to do. Oh, I need to forgive him, you or her. You won't have to do anything. Just by feeling all of the uncomfortable feelings potentially around your former spouse, you will arrive at forgiveness and peace. Okay, beautiful. The second practice here is, please take this new time, this time now that you're not married, to reestablish your relationship with yourself. So you're not married, you're not living together. You may have lost friends in the aftermath of the divorce process. Many things likely have fallen away. And it can feel like a void space, like a black hole, a liminal period. And that's okay. That is okay. We can embrace that we are just in a transitional period. And this is a time that your soul is really asking you, most likely, to get to know yourself on a deeper level. So please spend time with yourself. Please come back into yourself. What do you like to do? What is meaningful for you? I have a beautiful video on this channel called Inner Partnership. And this is a wonderful time to really establish this very strong partnership with yourself, inner companionship, inner solidarity. So whenever something happens that may not have been our desire, there's always space, there's always opportunity for us to do something else that is going to greatly benefit us. And when we hold the truth that everything is always happening in the highest and best way for us and for everyone else, this gives us a lot of peace about these situations we may find ourselves in that perhaps would not have been our human's choice. So number 2, the practice, get to know yourself. Establish that sacred inner partnership with yourself. And I will put a link to the video, Inner Partnership, in the description of this video. Okay, practice number 3, create a new dream for yourself. So perhaps before your divorce, perhaps your dream for your life had a lot to do with staying married and everything that entailed. So I know for me, after I went through, I would say, a grieving process of my original dream for my life of being married, of being a full-time mom, of that all falling away. After I had grieved all that, I had this beautiful insight come in from Spirit, and it was, okay, Tassel, that dream is over. That dream is no longer the reality. What is your new dream? What dream can you now hold for yourself? And this shift, this reframing, helped me so much because before that insight, I was in this whole orientation of, I've ruined my life. I have ruined my life. Look what has happened. There's no getting over this. There's no reclamation of my dream. And that was true. There was no reclamation of that particular dream, but there are infinite dreams that I and you can hold for our lives. So we are just being invited to hold a different dream for our precious lives. And the dream that I came into, my new dream, was simply, I want to have the best life ever in every aspect of my life, including now that I'm in a divorce. And so one of my intentions was to have the best divorce ever. And I would say that this is all happening. I am living my new dream. My life now, I would say I'm living my best life in every aspect of my life. And I would say my former spouse and I have an amazing divorce. Okay. So the next three practices are for those who do have children with your former spouse. So this next practice, practice number 4, is make peace with your former spouse. I'll just first share my story. As I mentioned earlier, I held so much anger towards my former spouse. I think he probably did towards me as well. There was mutual things going on. And I really didn't want to see him after we had separated and we were living in separate houses. I really did not want to see him. I was dropping and picking my kids up at the school that they attended rather than my former spouse coming to my house. I was being very avoidant. And this was taking a toll on everyone, including my children. And I'll never forget one night, my son, he really broke down. And he was crying, and he was saying how hard things were for him. And he said, "Mama, please help me." And it really brings tears to my eyes now. That was obviously the sign that I needed to get over my own anger and avoidance of my former spouse. And I made a commitment that night to my son and to myself that I would make peace. I would make peace with my former spouse, so it would serve all of us, and particularly my children who were suffering because there wasn't peace. And okay, so how do we make peace? So we already talked about feel all your feelings. So that's step number 1. And then step number 2, with your former spouse, we learn to have peaceful and constructive communication. Now, it's possible that you could be in a situation where you might feel your former spouse does not want to have peaceful and constructive communication, or may not want to work towards that. But my belief is, if you hold that intention, if you hold that prayer that you really desire peaceful and constructive communication with your spouse, I absolutely believe it will happen. I absolutely believe only one person needs to hold the intention, and it will manifest. And one of the ways, a practice that came to me for peaceful and constructive communication is called the sacred circle. And this is where you sit down with your former spouse, and you can do this with anyone. And I like to create a sacred space. Maybe there are candles, maybe you burn sage, maybe you have crystals, any sacred objects. And I ask Spirit to be with us in this conversation. And this really sets a container, I have found, for very peaceful, constructive communication. So that is one of my major tools. I used it a lot during the custody negotiation with my former spouse. And then once we were divorced, we had many sacred circles after our divorce, in part to heal wounds from the marriage and the whole divorce process, and also to really negotiate and talk about things that were happening now that we were divorced, and things we needed to talk about. And it was so helpful. And then the third step here about making peace with your former spouse is try to say yes. Try to say yes as much as possible when your former spouse asks you for something. So it might be they're asking if they can rearrange the children's schedule. It might be they're asking if you can help do a pickup. It might be anything. And I tried to say yes. I tried to be as cooperative and helpful a partner that I can be to my former spouse. And of course, this benefits everyone, right? It benefits my former spouse, it benefits me, it benefits my children. We want to take the approach that we are a team. We are not married, but we are co-parenting our precious children. Let's be a team. And what I have found is there's always a mirror effect. As I am peaceful, as I am helpful, as I say yes, I notice my former spouse absolutely reciprocates. Okay, 2 more practices here. Practice number 5 is say yes to awkward conversations. Okay, so there are going to be awkward situations in a divorce. There are awkward situations in marriages too. So for instance, I'll just give a personal story here. My former spouse, for a time, had a girlfriend, and he and the kids were starting to spend time overnight at this girlfriend's lake house. And I hadn't yet met this girlfriend. And it was starting to feel uncomfortable for me that my children were spending time, especially overnight, with someone that I had never met. And for some people, maybe this wouldn't feel uncomfortable, but I was really honoring that it did feel uncomfortable for me. And it was really my preference that I could meet this girlfriend whom my children were spending a significant amount of time with. And this was not really comfortable for my former spouse or for his girlfriend. For whatever reason, that was really not their desire for me to meet the girlfriend. So we had an awkward conversation around all of this. And I knew it was awkward for my former spouse. It was a bit awkward for me. In the end, we did decide that, yes, I would meet his girlfriend. And I think when I met her, I think it was awkward for her as well. But we all made it through, and it felt like the highest and best resolution to the situation for everyone just to meet. And so I really encourage all of us to lean in to awkward situations. Let's not put our head in the sand. Let's lean in. Let's talk it out. Let's move through any uncomfortable feelings, and let's show up for each other, and let's do what really feels the highest and best for all. And then the last point here, the last practice, is honor your children's loyalties. So this is a little embarrassing. I try not to frame any of my feelings as embarrassing because I'm really in a practice of self-love. So maybe I'll step back from saying it was embarrassing. It was uncomfortable. Maybe that's a better way to say it. There was a part of me when we had our divorce that somehow thought my children would be on my side, as if there's sides to take. Of course, there aren't sides. Of course, our children love their father, they love their mother. So, but this was a part of me. And really, I needed to honor that part of me that felt like that and not judge that part of me to again, always honor whatever is arising. And this was something that I really had to work through. I really had to work through honoring my children's loyalties. That, of course, they love both parents. Of course, they want to spend time with both parents. Of course, they are loyal to both parents. We can probably think of our own parents, and if we had at least decent relationships with them, we too would be loyal to both of our parents. So that was something I had to work through, and also here to really speak as much as possible positively about the other parent, keeping in mind this is your children's parent. To speak negatively about them to your children is can be very uncomfortable, very painful for our children. Now, of course, if there is something that needs to be addressed with your co-parent, then of course we need to address that. But to just really honor our children's situation, our children's feelings in every way that we interact with them about their other parent. And yes. Okay. So these are the 6 practices. Honor and feel all of your feelings. Take time to reestablish a relationship with yourself. Create a new dream for yourself. Make peace with your former spouse. Say yes to awkward conversations and honor your children's loyalties. And I will just say that using these 6 practices and really embodying them has absolutely transformed what was a very difficult relationship with my former spouse. We had a very difficult marriage to what I would really say is a wonderful divorce. We are absolutely all living happily ever after, and I know that you can too. So thank you so much for joining me on this video. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. Please subscribe to my channel. And there's also information in the video description about our amazing You Are Your Own Hero community. We would love for you to join us. Thank you so much. So many blessings. Bye.